Rise and shine, family. Listen, do not skip this video. By the end, you'll be more powerful. Today, we're talking about The Last Dragon. The last video was about the Matrix, and if you missed it, please go watch it. You missed a good one, okay? But today, we're going to talk about The Last Dragon and the esoteric symbolism behind it, right? The hidden meaning behind the narrative that we normally would watch, okay? So it's made up of a few characters, but I'm going to talk about a few of those characters. Bruce Leroy, Laura Charles, Shonuff, Eddie Arcadia, and the lady that he was trying to get on named Angie or Angela, okay? Let's talk about these characters, okay? Bruce Leroy. Bruce means thick brush or trapped in the thicket. Or bruise, right? Bruce is he's in his own way, right? And this is why his name is Bruce. When you're bruised, that means that the circulation of blood flow is stopped, right? So he is stopping his own flow, right? And his last name is Leroy, which means king. So he is the bruised king. That's what I'm going to call him, okay? Laura Charles, right? She represents, the name Laura, rather, means strength and victory, right? And so he has to come into contact with strength and victory before he can reach his higher self to defeat his lower self, which is called Shonuff, okay? So these are all three of the same person, really, just fragments. And many people in your life, they are reflections or fragments of yourself as well, okay? Eddie Arcadia. Eddie means wealthy man. He is a man who is wealthy. He is a producer, and he's looking to make even more money, but off the backs of other people, right? And Angie is one of those people he wants to make money off of as well, Angela. Her name means messenger of God, right? She sees straight through this man, and you'll find out in this video why and what I mean by that, okay? So let's just get into the video. Bruce Leroy starts off training, and he's wearing a yellow belt representing the solar plexus, right? The solar plexus looks like the sun. It's represented in the energy center of your body, or it's in the center of your body, and its nerve endings go into the solar plexus, and the energy radiates outward, which is why we call it solar plexus. It is yellow, okay, called solar after the sun. The sun also is yellow, but it only appears to be yellow. It is not yellow, in fact, but it appears to be yellow, just as the sky appears to be blue, and water, when it's deep, appears to be blue as well, right? But these things are not. Water is clear, so is the sky, right? And the sun is not yellow. Just look it up. But right now we're talking about the last dragon, right? Because we know the sun, even when it starts to go down, and a sunset rather, the sun appears red. In highly polluted areas, the sun even appears red too. So what it looks like to you may not be what it is, right? We talked about this on the last video. So let's get into it. He's training, and his master shoots 3 arrows at him. 2 red ones, 1 blue one. He breaks the first 2 red ones, but he catches the blue one. His master looks at him and said, "How did you know? How did you know it was blue?" And his master and Leroy's response was, "I did not know it was blue." His master recognizes that Leroy is there, right? He no longer needs a master, so he has to remove himself. And so he pulls the patch off of Leroy's chest. I believe this patch represented the relationship between Leroy and his master, because when it was removed, Leroy falls down on his face in a kneeling form as if he had done something wrong. And his master says, just like in the movies, right? These disciples fall down in a kneeling position at the sight of their master's displeasure. But why? Rise up, brother. Rise up, Bruce, right? But Bruce is bruised, right? He doesn't realize that he does not need a master. His master goes on to tell him, "I am not your master. I can no longer be your master." This hurts him, right? And many of us, we hate to hear that a person is no longer going to teach us, because we, at that moment, we don't know that we have what it takes to go out on our own. We're still in that bruised, weak, childlike state where we don't know what we're capable of, right? So in order to get him to have some type of belief in himself or faith in himself, he challenges him to put faith in something else. He gives them this totem or this talisman. And many of us do this too. We put faith in totems and talismans like crosses, 5-pointed stars, right? Even ankhs, right? People say, "Kevin, what does this mean?" I tell people it means life, right? And so I don't wear this because I think it has power. I wear it because of the meaning to it to me, right? I would never hold this up if someone was trying to attack me in a belief that it was going to repel them somehow. I know this has no power, right? This is only what it is made out of. If this is gold, it's only gold. If it's silver, it's only silver. If it's steel, it is only steel. This is not an ankh that has power, right? It's whatever you put your energy into that has the power, but you're the one with the power. That emblem doesn't have any power, right? We do this with many items, with many icons or idols or totems or anything, right? And he also sends Neo, I mean, it's not Neo, I'm talking about the Matrix again. He sends Bruce on a mission to find some dumb boy, right? A teacher who you'll find out later doesn't even exist, right? And so now Leroy's on a mission to find this teacher that doesn't even exist. And it reminds me of this parable where a man climbs the tallest mountain to meet the wisest monk. And he asks him how to find God. And the monk sends him on a mission, a journey rather, to find his own head. And we all know you can never find your own head. It is attached to you, but you'll never see it. But in this journey to find your own head, you realize that you are your head. And then in this journey is where you retain all of this information and you become enlightened. So the journey becomes well worth it, even though you don't end up finding what you're looking for, and you end up finding out that you are what you're looking for. That journey is very important because that's what got you from A to B. Realizing that you are everything that you think, that everything that you're looking for outside of yourself. It's beautiful, family. So anyway, the very next scene is Sho'nuff coming into this movie theater to fight with Leroy, right? Because he recognized that Leroy has the glow. Obviously, everybody does. They know Leroy has skills, right? And Leroy just doesn't realize it, right? So that shows you right there that little interaction between he and Sho'nuff. That Sho'nuff represented the lower energy because he comes in wearing red. Right? Or Bruce Leroy's in there just chilling, minding his business, you know, watching a movie. Here comes Sho'nuff ready to start something. Leroy ends up leaving that situation without contending with his lower self, right? And until you got to address it. You got to confront your lower self if you're gonna come up. You got to address those doubts and fears within yourself to be able to rise, right? Which is the representation or the embodiment of Sho'nuff. Everything that Bruce Leroy feared. He wanted to be about peace. He did not want to be about violence, but you can't be unbalanced, right? Sometimes you have to confront your lower self, right? Now, the very next scene, Laura and Bruce, they make eye contact, and even she can see his glow. She can see his inner glow, that he is very special. Okay. Shortly after she's almost kidnapped, Bruce Leroy shows up to protect her, but he drops his talisman. And from there, it turns into like this reverse Cinderella story where he's pursuing her to find what he dropped, right? It's funny. But during this pursuit, he ends up finding her again. The very next time he finds her, she's being kidnapped yet again. And they pull up in a truck that says sound, right? And it has 7 colors of the chakra on it, 7 color spectrums on it, which represent the 7 chakra colors. And it has a number 16 on it. 1 plus 6 equals 7. Also, whenever his master was telling Leroy about the last dragon, he shows him on a board 7 dragons, right? So 7 dragons. And Sho'nuff knows that he wants to be the last dragon as well, but he knows he must defeat Bruce Leroy in order to do it. So this is why I'm telling you guys that these are one and the same people, right? When it first shows Laura, she's singing about 7th heaven, and she's wearing blue, which represents the throat chakra, which means to speak or speak truth. And she's wearing triangular shaped or pyramid shaped earrings, which is just even more clues that this is talking about something totally different, family. It's talking about reaching that higher pinnacle, that higher state of consciousness, right? Which Leroy has yet to reach because of his doubt. You understand? Now, you'll find that throughout the movie, they stop calling him Bruce and begin to call him Leroy as the movie goes on. But we're talking about this number 7. And another clue to that is on the inside of the pizza shop that his father owns, there's a phrase on the wall that says, "A slice a day keeps the doctor away." That's an 8-word phrase. What doctor is misspelled. So that means 7 words are spelled correctly. That's looking really deep into it, family, but that's 7 words spelled correctly, which again shows that number 7, okay? Now, as the movie goes on, Bruce Leroy has to come in contact with Sho'nuff a couple of times, right? So much to the point to where Bruce Leroy has now been kicked in the face by this dude, bullied by this dude, and Bruce Leroy still doesn't want to show his inner power, right? Because he for whatever reason, he's still looking for this master to show up, right? It wasn't until he realized that this master didn't exist that he knew he had to be who he was looking for. He had to be. He goes back to his master after realizing that some dumb boy is not real, and his master pulls the fortune out of a fortune cookie and hands him the fortune cookie. He breaks it and realizes it's empty. And his master touches his forehead right here, the pineal gland, and says, "Think, Leroy, think, king." Okay? Think, king. You have cracked open a fortune cookie with no fortune, written by a master who does not exist, to find an answer to a question that you already have. And many of us has broken open a symbolic fortune cookie with no fortune, written by a master that did not exist, right? And we do this in the form of books, right? We do this by giving our energy to certain people, thinking that they are going to be the catalyst to us becoming us, who we're supposed to be. But in fact, you are who you are all alone. Stop giving that energy to things outside of yourself, right? And this is what this movie is going to show you. That some of these people in your life, even when they seem like your enemy, they are representations of yourself to help you rise to another state of consciousness, because without them, you likely would never do it. Without them, you never reach that deep. You understand? So as it goes on, you see this scene now with Eddie Arcadia and Angie realizing that Eddie Arcadia is losing her, or is using her. So she begins to tell him that you're using me, man. You never had any real power. Like, come on, you never had any real power. You're using me to come up, right? And so look, notice that in this scene, the sun is behind Eddie. It shows he is really trying to play like he is the source when he is not the source, right? Right? He uses other people who are the sources. And a lot of producers do this, right? They call themselves producers as if they are the producers, but they're looking for producers of energy. They're looking for people who are talented, in which their gifts spew out from inside of them, right? So they are not the producers. While they are called the producers, they are not. You are the producers, right? You are the product. You are the producers, right? You produce what is in you, and that comes out in the form of music or whatever. And that person helps you get on maybe, but they are not the producers, right? So she realizes this and she walks away from him, right? She goes back to tell Bruce Leroy where to go meet up with him or where not to go. Bruce Leroy now knows exactly where to go, right? So now he goes and meets up to fight. He has to fight, right? Because he's just been in a state of where he had to meditate in that lower root chakra, which shows that he realized he had to fight. The room is now red. He's always wearing yellow the whole movie, but now the room is all red, right? And it has a tiger on the wall, right? And the punching bag's red, his boxing gloves are red, all these things are red, showing that he had to go to that lower place, right? That fight that breaks out between he and Shonuff at the end. Notice Shonuff embodies that room. He's red just like the room. And now he has a tiger going over his shoulder, which shows he has to fight with his lower self, right? And it was during this fight, this contention with his lower self, that he realized he was the master. But it was not until he admitted it. Admitted it, right, means to reveal something that you already knew the answer to, right? Or to admit something means to invite something in, right? Admission, right? He admits himself as being the master by saying, I am. Those two words was the difference between Bruce and Leroy, right? He is no longer the bruised king. He is now the king. And you can tell because the glow emanates around him and he's fighting now with his power, right? And this is how he wins that fight. Some of you guys just have to admit, right? Invite yourself, right? Admit that you are exactly who you're looking for. And then you will find that that power that you have begins to emanate outside of you. Now, you see people all over the world who admit that they're great. And we see that as arrogance. We say how arrogant they must be, how pompous they must be to say that they're great. No, man, sometimes you have to admit, you have to be the first person to admit yourself into being greatness, because not many people are going to do that, right? You stand in front of that door. You hold the key to your greatness. So admit yourself into that room of greatness, that higher place, right? I want you guys to go watch this movie so you can see exactly where it's coming from. He no longer was bruised. He rose himself up to the highest point and became king, right? At the very end of this movie, you see he and Laura now face to face, wearing red, wearing white and yellow, showing that they were embodiments of each other, right? But it took him defeating his lower self, his fearful self, right? The part that lower self that brings out fear, right? He had to defeat that version of himself in order to become his truest self, right? And you can see his life was getting so chaotic, even more chaotic, until he decided to fight back, until he decided to go within and pull which was already within out, right? And I always say this saying, when you find yourself in the middle of chaos, it's in that chaos that you find yourself, right? And he was in chaos. It was all around him. These people broke in, destroyed his daddy's shop. They went into his place, threatened the life of one of his trainees, right? And told him to kiss the shoe of Shonuff if he didn't, they break the neck of his trainee, and they kicked him in the mouth then, right? So he's been bullied. He's got chaos all around him. And so he had to find himself in the midst of all that chaos, right? And he had to balance himself out because he was looking for peace this whole time, trying to be peaceful, until he realized that nobody's coming to save you. There is no some dumb goy out there, right? Stop looking for a master. You are the master. You are. I want everybody to say, I am, right? I am, right? Referring to yourself so you can be the person that you need to be, okay? Look within and pull that greatest part of you out, because you are Bruce Leroy. You are the master, but only when you self-realize, right? Your higher self must become aware that you are the one in order for you to be the one, right? Think about the scene where he's trying to talk to the girl, Laura, and he's trying to express to her that he's never, he's a virgin and he doesn't know what to do, right? And he's saying, I have a friend who's never done anything before. And then she goes, hey, I'd love to teach you some moves, right? Because she could read through what he's saying. And what did she say? What did he say? I'm talking about my friend. He is the one. He subconsciously knew that the person he was talking about was the one. And many of you know that you are the answer to your own prayers. Many of you know that you are that bridge to get you from poverty to success. Many of you know that it is your actions alone that links you to success from failure. You are the difference maker. You are. So say it and admit it. I am. Become the master and be the change that you want to see, family. That's it. Peace.